Right now I'm heading north to visit some family, and I'm somewhere in Connecticut, but just for giggles, I did a search in Google Maps for ramen, and it popped up a place right off the highway, actually about 7 minutes from me. I've only seen one picture, but it looked pretty legit, so I'm gonna make a random ramen stop off the highway and have some lunch in Connecticut. Let's check it out.
Send me to my grave.
Let me tell you about this little lady in my life.
Send me to my grave.
Relationship. Since neither of us ever really agreed
Yes,
on it.
yes, yes.
But I love her though. And I think she
I
loves
gotta
me.
speak me.
But you know how relationships go. Now check it out now.
Take exit 66. Take the next left, then turn right. Take the next right, then turn left.
They got spicy miso, pork belly right on the window. I think this is gonna be pretty good. I got the spicy miso. It was actually a really delicious bowl of miso ramen. The broth was actually a thin broth, which is something that I'm not really used to. I really tend to stay towards the thicker broth, but this was still flavorful, it was still delicious. The only gripe though is that with a thin broth, it really doesn't coat the noodles like I'd like. And basically every bite, if you're just slurping the noodles, you're not getting that full, powerful miso flavor that you would as if the broth just stuck to it. So, I mean, in order to compensate for that, all you have to do is just, slurp your noodles and then drink some of the broth, and you get that powerful flavor. So, thin broth, not my favorite, but I can make do. It's especially easy to overlook when you have chashu like this. The pork was so moist, it was so delicious, it had this amazing grilled flavor, and it just fell apart just how I like it. And I really can't complain. That chashu was amazing. So as usual, I order the extra spice and extra chashu. With the extra spice, it actually made this bowl pretty fiery. I'd say it's like my normal, average level of spice that I look for in a bowl. It wasn't overpowering, but it wasn't so weak that, I wanted to pile on a bunch more. There was a pretty hefty dose of chili paste on top, and it made this bowl nice and spicy. I really liked it a lot. The noodles were nothing special. They were medium thickness, medium firmness, which was what I look for anyway. The only thing I can complain about is just, again, relating to the broth. When I go to get ramen, I tend to want a thicker broth so that the noodles can actually get coated, but it's okay. The flavor was still there. It's just the noodles weren't anything special, and they didn't really carry that flavor, so I can't really say they were outstanding or bad or anything. They were just whatever. There were other toppings here that were really great. The ground beef that you can see in the video and in the picture was awesome flavor too. It was very savory, very strong, savory flavor. I really enjoyed that. There's a ton of sesame seeds, which is kind of interesting. There's a handful of places that I've been to in Okinawa that used a lot of sesame seeds. I don't particularly like them or dislike them, but it was nice to see that added touch to the bowl. There's also a bunch of corn. I usually don't order corn with my ramen because, as I've said in previous videos, The corn generally just falls to the bottom of the bowl, and I end up having to just eat it by itself with the broth anyway. So I'm not a huge fan of corn, but it was there. It's something else added to the bowl that didn't have to be there, so that's cool with me. The egg was awesome. You could definitely tell they took the time to marinate this egg with some sort of soy sauce or like the miso tare flavor, and it was delicious. It was great.
Okay, let's talk slurp score for Funju Noodle Bar. It was a thin broth, it had good flavor, but it wasn't thick enough to coat the noodles, so I had to slurp it every single bite just to keep the flavor. For that, I'll give it a 7. The chashu had a super grilled flavor and it was moist. It fell apart just how I like it. For that, I'll give it an 8. Spice level, awesome. Even better than some of the places I hit in New York, actually. A nice amount of extra spice on top. It definitely gave it more bite than most ramen shops. For that, I give it an 8. The noodles weren't very amazing. By themselves, they were pretty basic. Again, the broth wasn't thick enough to coat them, so for that, I'll give them a 6. Other toppings, I'll give a 7. There was ground beef here, there was corn here. The beef was strong, it was savory. There was lots of sesame seeds, which was kind of interesting. Total restaurant vibe, I'd say it was an 8. It was an awesome, modern restaurant. There was plenty of seating, so I can't see it ever being a long wait to get inside and to eat. Plus they have a full-service liquor bar, so you can get lit at the same time you're slurping down noodles. Overall score for Funju Noodle Bar ends up being a 7.33.
Yo, I gotta say, Funju Ramen, pretty legit. The name of the place is called Funju Noodle Bar, and as I said in the beginning, it was just kind of a random, just for giggles, search in Google Maps as I was driving. Turned out there was a ramen shop, noodle bar, right off the highway where I was driving, and I got the spicy miso, extra chashu, extra spice. Pretty dang good. So if you're ever in Connecticut, I don't even know where I'm at in Connecticut. I'll throw up the Google Maps picture somewhere so that you could actually find it if you're in the area. But wow, that's a pretty inspiring experience right there. Connecticut might be coming up in the world real soon, in the noodle world. Funju Noodle Bar, pretty good.
The restaurant overall was just a really relaxed atmosphere. It was a pretty large restaurant actually, and it says in the title, you know, Funju Noodle Bar. It doesn't say ramen shop, so I guess maybe that's why it kind of differs from the norm of the small, you know, personal ramen shop. But this restaurant was actually nice because there was plenty of seating. I imagine in the evenings, even when there's a rush, it's probably not too packed in there that you'd have to wait a long time to get your food, which is super cool if you're really hungry and you really want to get a bowl of ramen. I mean, especially in the US, because people tend to want to sit around and relax when they eat. But on top of that, I'd say the other cool thing that I like about this restaurant is that they had a full liquor bar. So there was the seating for the ramen and the restaurant area over to one side, a large portion on the other side, and then there was a little like tiki looking bar with every liquor that you could want. So I'm sure at different times the restaurant probably attracts a different type of crowd than what you typically find in a ramen shop. That was pretty cool in my opinion too. You know, you gotta diversify, especially I think in the middle of Connecticut. How good is the business gonna be for a traditional small ramen shop? I imagine it's probably not going to be in business very long, honestly. But you bring in some other folks that are into other types of noodles or just want to get liquored up. Hey, that sounds like a good model to me. I'm pretty shocked. There's actually a delicious bowl of ramen in Wallingford, Connecticut. Never heard of Wallingford, Connecticut before. I don't know how close it is to Hartford, but I was really surprised, and it was just a luck of the draw that I actually found this spot while I was traveling. So I'm really happy that I stopped. I'm really happy that I got some ramen, and I'm glad that I could share it with you guys. Hey, I'm actually recording this right now in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm out here for a business trip, and I actually hit a couple ramen shops out here as well. Stay tuned to my channel, and you can actually check those out if you live in Indiana or if you're visiting anytime soon. There's at least one or two pretty good ramen shops out here that I've hit. Subscribe to my channel, like my videos, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and as I always say, leave this world better than you found it. Take it easy.